Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Thursday. Uh, we made it. 2 hours ago, I was looking at the pile of dishes and being like, am I going to make it? And then I just buckled down and did it. What do you know? Turns out not putting it off means it's not put off. But in the process, I was sort of rummaging around, looking at what I've got, because I didn't go out to get any new ingredients, which is a good thing, because I got a bunch of stuff that just needs to get used up. Some of it actually was a little too late and I ended up throwing it away, which is why I'm especially going to use stuff up now, because I would hate to throw more things away. Some things already got away from me. Mostly it's going to be ingredients. We only have one item that's actually a leftover item that's going to get used up. Although I've got that eggplant to pepper mix that isn't completely out of the question for being thrown into something else. But yeah, so here we are. The main thing that's going to get used up today is old rice. This is going to be the core of our whatever we end up making, and I already have given it quite a bit of thought, so I know where I'm going to take us with this. This is from last week, and it's very stale, so we have to save some stale rice, but that's not that hard. I've got a pretty gnarly looking carrot. We're going to end up peeling, trying to sprout. We're going to end up peeling that and use that up. We've got a chunk of a pepper. We've got a chunk of a tomato and an onion. We've got some celery. We've got this sausage that I've been taking bits off of, but since it's open, it does need to get used up. I can't just have it sit around waiting for me forever. On the spice rack end, we've got home ground ancho chili, which actually isn't clumping as badly as I thought it might. So we might not end up using all of that. But this guy we are going to use. You might not remember this one. It's pepperoni spice seasoning that I made from my own mix. And I don't know when I'm going to use it. So I'm just going to use it. So we're just going to throw that in. So we're making sort of a beans and rice dish, sausage, beans, and rice dish. It's not going to be any specific thing. We're just throwing stuff together. And it, honestly, I don't imagine this is going to take terribly long. And it's also going to be super easy. The trickiest, oh, that's another thing. I have part of a chicken broth that's been opened and thus, again, must be used up. Since I had to throw a bunch of stuff away today, I really want to avoid throwing anything more away. So things that are already partially opened, partially used are on priority. Probably end up with a little bit of our cotija cheese, just because, again, it's open. And it'll give us a different flavor than a lot of these other things that I've got going on here. So yeah, we're looking at probably a beans and rice and sausage thing. We're going to end up with somewhere in between Mexican and Louisiana flavors. But I don't have anything particularly in mind, except that I want to combine these things and I want it to taste good. I do have some beans. We're using canned beans because they are easy to use. They're not on the list of have to be used up, so they're being thrown in because I guess I feel like they should be in there. They probably don't, honestly. There's going to be enough going on. So I'll have them in the back in the event that I need to feel it. They're canned beans as well, so they're super easy to use on short notice. But let's push the rice aside. The rice, the rice is cooked but old and stale. So it's perfect for things like fried rice. because it has a little bit more structure than freshly cooked rice that tends to get mushy and kind of stick a little bit in the wok. But it's unpleasant to eat when it's stale. I'm just going to get a large pan out. Pop us over to the... Oh, we're already there. I wasn't even looking at my screen. There's my board. So you have to do something with old stale rice so that it's not just unpleasant. I don't normally peel my carrots, but I'm going to peel this one because it's a little bit gnarly on the outside. And we're just going to get that gnarly layer off. I have a bad habit of buying ingredients that I don't have a clear plan for, and then using part of them or having dreams of using part of them, and then I end up throwing all or part of it away. Sometimes it's because it's some weird exotic thing that I don't know how to use, so I'll end up using just a bit of it as an experiment and then not really follow up. Sometimes it's normal stuff, like I just threw out a carrot, the twin of this carrot, just because it's been in there too long. Just because it had, wow, stumbled over my words. We're on another haven't eaten much today day, so I'm very looking forward to dinner. The results of tonight's labor. Oop. I'm not used to the carrots being quite so slippery. Get this on the edge of the board. So I guess we're gonna throw all this stuff together and find out what it tastes like. Because despite this being a, hey, I've got stuff to use up, I am kind of following a plan, my own plan, but a plan that I've thought about over the past half hour or so. So it's not completely out of the. We're not head empty cooking. We have a plan and a goal and processes in mind. I'm using quite a wide pan for this because I don't want. There's going to be a bunch of fresh vegetables in here, and I don't want them to be getting crowded. Start with some olive oil. If you throw too much stuff in a pan, too many wet ingredients, they will, as they start to express the moisture that's in them out into the pan, they will start steaming, or in an even worse case, if there's enough liquid, boiling, rather than frying. So if you're going to end up putting a lot in a pan, and this is why they say don't crowd meat, for example, because the meat will start expressing moisture into the pan. And then you'll end up with it boiled, and there'll be too much moisture in the pan for the browning. Especially things like peppers and onions have a lot of moisture in them that comes out rather quickly when they start to get hot. And if you want it to come out even faster, you salt them, because the salt causes it to rush to the surface and then bleed out into the pan. I guess since I'm using onion, pepper, celery, and carrot, and tomato, we're kind of blending French, Italian, Mexican, and Cajun flavors for the beginning of this. I want things to be pretty diced up too, because I intend to eat the finished product with a spoon, so I don't want big chunks. Colors are going to be kind of on the red side, on account of this being a red pepper. I think if I was to make something like this with a deliberate decision instead of, hey, what have I got, I would select a green pepper for the color contrast with the tomato and carrot. But whatever. People say red peppers taste different from green peppers, and I suppose if you eat them raw, I can tell. But cooked into a thing, I think they all just end up the same. I think yellow peppers are a little bit less intensely flavored. And I suppose green peppers are probably a little bit less sweet. This pepper that we're cutting up right now was in fact green when I purchased it. Green peppers will often, if you let them sit around, turn colors and become either red or yellow peppers. I've got another one over here. Oop. This one, this red pepper, looks very, very red from that angle until you flip it around and it's green on the other side. This one's also really still nice and extremely fresh, so which is why we're not using that one now, because we're in a use up mode, not a new ingredient mode. So this pepper we're cutting up is still in good condition, but it's been in the fridge for a few days, and I'm trying to clear stuff out. And this is plenty of pepper to work with. We won't need any additional. In fact, the carrot's going to be a pretty small component of our overall thing, which I'm fine with. I think carrot is not a particularly appealing flavor. It's nice in a complement with other things, but I'm not a big fan of carrot as a main component. We are going to need more onion. This is the tail end of one of my mini onions. So we are going to end up selecting another full-sized onion, but as long as we're using stuff up, we'll throw in some red onion. Again, red on red today. I like red onion. I wish they were a little bit more common. It's not like you can't get them, but they don't typically come in a bag of onions. They typically, or at least where I am, come as a single, like, softball-sized red onion. And I don't usually want to use that much onion when I'm reaching for a red onion. Hi, bookwoman. Welcome in. Lurking is, of course, always appreciated. How's it going? Or if you would rather lurk, you don't have to say how it's going. Someone followed. I'll thank someone for following. Someone followed me 2 days ago after I was done streaming. So thank you, mysterious post-stream follower. I didn't get a chance to thank you in the moment. Yeah, this week's been a little trying. Okay. So, we're going to... Oh, we need to add some celery. Celery was on my list of things, so we'll break off a couple bits because we end up losing quite a lot to trimming. Ugh, that one broke, which means I'm just going to trim the broken part. We're going to saute down these vegetables before I add anything else, because I want them to soften up. I'm not looking for crispy or crunchy, fresh pieces of vegetable. We're not going for tender. Oh, God, we are going for tender. I'm saying everything backwards. Ruya, hi. At the moment, I'm throwing... It's not all leftovers. Some of it's leftovers, some of it's just ingredients that are on the edge and need to be used up. And I'm going to be making a rice dish, because the main thing we're using up is... I have stale rice that I'm going to use up here. But a bunch of odds and ends. A bunch of them were just like half of some vegetables, or some things that were a little bit old. We had a pretty gnarly looking carrot, so that's gone in here. We had half of a red pepper, so that went in here. We have some celery that's getting brown on the end, so that went in here. We have a fresh onion in here, but we had half of a mini red onion, and that went in. So I know I brought up the idea of using leftovers to make new things, and I still want that on the table, but I actually, as I was rummaging around, I ended up throwing a bunch of stuff away because it had gone too long. So we're using ingredients in part because there wasn't a leftover item intact for me to use, turn into a new dish, and in part because I really would rather not throw anything more away. So I'm not sure we're going to end up throwing beans in there. The beans are canned. I've got them on hand in case I want them. But the quantity of vegetables here might be sufficient to not need them. I'm shooting for using stuff up and not generating a big pile of additional leftovers. So I would like to cook these vegetables down most of the way. Thus the wide pan. Really shrink them up before moving on. I pulled out the big slab of bacon, and I think I'm going to put it back and not use it. I'll show it off. This is a bacon end that I've got wrapped up. You can see the holes where the hooks went in it when it was hanging. And that's why it got cut off and sold as a separate thing, because you can't take nice, neat slices through those holes. They were pretty generous, I think, and gave quite a bit of perfectly sliceable bacon on the end there. You can get those cheap. You can get those things cheap if you go to the place where they're making the bacon. And you can slice your own bits off of them. Oh, I know what we should do. I always forget to do this. I always forget to do this when it's still early enough. But we're going to get out my bundle of parsley. Bundle of parsley is not old. We're going to get out the bundle of parsley. We're going to pull, I don't know, a good chunk of them off. Because I'm going to want some parsley leaves later. Bunch up the rest. But what I always say is, don't throw out the stems, just remember that you're going to use them earlier. So we're going to do that now. And I'm going to throw parsley stems in with our vegetable mix to sort of amp up the flavors. So that we don't end up discarding them, because again, you can eat parsley stems. They're just a little bit tougher than the leaves, and if you want to include them in a dish, it is a good idea to do so early on when they have time to soften up and break down. Impart their parsley flavors. Also, since today is a day of trying to use stuff up so it doesn't get thrown away, it wouldn't really do to then throw stuff away. Perfectly good stuff. Need the big knife for these. Okay, and then you just take those and chuck them in. I would say they add some nice green to our mix, but they will not be adding that green by the time we're done. They will have faded out and been subsumed in the color. Although this is pretty colorful right now. Things that are green on account of chlorophyll tend to not be extremely heat stable when cooked a long time. That's why your green vegetables will turn sort of that muddy shade of green. And the green in these stems is a chlorophyll green, so tasty though. I've also got a half a tomato, and I do want to add another tomato, which is also in my book of things that need to get used up because it has developed two little spots, and I would like to get to it, use it up before those spots develop into anything major. So we're going to take the tip off. Take the tip off of that one. I'm just going to chuck that stuff in. It's going to dry out as it cooks. Tomatoes being rather wet. Didn't want to put them in right away at the beginning, but honestly, probably could have just chucked them in with everything else. I guess I wanted the other things to dry out a little bit before I threw the tomatoes in there, just so they weren't all trying to steam off at the same time. Don't know why I'm throwing them in stages instead of cutting them all and then scraping them in all at once, but that's what I get when I'm not thinking properly. I'm pretty hungry today again, so it's distracting me and it's making me a little bit eager to get things in. Oop. The ad tracker has turned yellow, indicating the approach of an ad. Okay. Let's see how these guys are coming along. So I am actually looking to cook these kind of to death. Maybe not 100% all the way to death, but I'm not looking for nice pieces. I want everything sort of soft and mushed together today. Or do I? Maybe I don't. I'm almost tempted to throw the rice in now because there's a lot of moisture coming off of those tomatoes, and the rice will end up picking that up and steaming, which will soften it up, which we need to do at some point because the rice is stale. And I was going to use chicken broth for that. Probably should still use chicken broth for that. I guess I'm not making a fried rice. I'm almost making like a savory rice porridge. I don't know. My vision is gradually changing as I do this. I'm adding a little bit more salt to help the tomatoes express, since we're not adding much else in the way of salt to this. I will throw in my little jar of weird seasoning concoction though. Since I don't know when else I'm going to use it, and we are just kind of throwing stuff at this. And a good portion of my home ground ancho. Fresh black pepper. I think that's it. I don't want to reach for too many things. There's actual tomato in there, so I probably don't need to add any tomato powder. There's nothing particularly spicy in there. There's a tiny bit of spice coming from the pepperoni blend, and the ancho, it also has a little bit of spice. Get like this. I always have to scrape down, at least I feel like I have to scrape down the sides in this pan so that everything is touching the bottom. Even though the sides of the pan are definitely also going to be getting hot. Nope, there's the ad break. What do we do besides this? It's not too late to get creative. We just have a sort of spiced vegetable base here developing. Which could, wow, I think I got some of that seasoning in the air. This could still go in a different direction if I wanted to. Almost tempted to put it as a topper for rice. Okay. That's whoa, big crazy noises outside. Um, okay, so the rice needs to be moistened up. That's what the big issue is. And I think I'm going to do it separately. I think I've decided it's not going to just be mixed in. So, uh, yeah, we can. Yeah, using stuff up. So that's, I don't know, about half of a thing of chicken broth, which I'm going to bring to a boil. That will loosen up our rice. But then I probably am going to add it into this. We're just going to have it go while this is loosening up, and then that can help deglaze. You can see we're getting some stickage on the bottom. This is getting real nice and soft. This is getting to the good soft jammy consistency that I had in my head. So this is getting there. So once the rice has loosened up, we can add it to our vegetable mixture. So to that end, I'm going to take out our sausage. We're still working on this same andouille sausage. I think if I wasn't attempting to use up existing ingredients, I would not be reaching for sausage for this. I would be reaching for beans. Beans, I think, are the more appropriate accompaniment to everything I've built there. Maybe just a little bit of a meat item at the very beginning to grease the pan. But we're in use up stuff mode. If I did use beans at this stage, it would be a vegan dish as well, because nothing in there at the moment has any. Well, the chicken. Okay, we just threw some chicken broth in there, but in the actual vegetable mix, it would be still vegan. One of those things. I frequently accidentally cook vegan food just because it doesn't need a meat element. Whatever I'm cooking ends up not needing a meat element. So I'm always weirded out by people who complain about vegan food being difficult. Uh, I will say these sausages with the horseshoe shape are a little tricky to slice evenly. I should be using the large knife. Okay. All this extra, throw that in there. Now that the vegetables have given up most of their moisture and are getting jammy, the meat pieces won't steam or boil. They can render a little bit and brown a little bit. So this is the basic principle of how I cook, is I just throw stuff together. Oftentimes, literally just grab whatever's at hand, chuck it together, and it's more about having certain aspects of flavor accounted for rather than specific flavors. We have sweetness in this coming from the peppers, the onions, and the carrots. We have saltiness from the salt I added, but also from the sausage pieces. We're going to have a little bit of spice, which I'm going to have to taste test for a little bit further on, from the powder blends. There's obviously quite a lot of savoriness, not just from the sausage, but a lot is coming from the tomato. Salted tomato naturally produces a lot of MSG. It's got a fatty element from the oil and from the sausage. It's got everything going on. It's got all the elements going on. And pretty much, when you're cooking, if you just checklist, does it have all the things, your finished dish is going to be pretty good. Our brothy rice has come to a boil. So I've turned the heat off over there because it's all broken up. And I've changed my mind how I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to do this without burning my hand. I want just the broth part in there. Because I don't want the rice to go completely mush by boiling away. All of our vegetables are already sort of dehydrated and jammy. We'll add the liquid, we'll turn the heat up to boil it away. We'll get the extra flavor from the chicken broth. It's a low sodium chicken broth. It's not adding a bunch of extra salt. So I'm pretty comfortable in cooking it down to concentrated. So I guess we're turning this part into almost a stew. I'm definitely not putting the beans in at this point. Those beans back. So we're turning this to almost a stew consistency. We could. There are still things I could do with this at this stage. I'm almost thinking if I can get it to really thicken up, which it should do pretty quickly at a vigorous simmer. We could treat this like a what's it called? The Israeli thing with the eggs. What's that called? Shakshuka. We could treat this like a shakshuka and get it thickened up, potentially with some starch. Jen, you're literally making mapo tofu right now. Amazing. Let me know how it comes out. Mine, I didn't give a good verdict on mine when I made it last week because I had to rush over to serve it. But I had notes for myself about how to change it. That's exciting. I love mapo tofu. I thought the one I made was quite good, but it didn't strike me as super authentic tasting. But let me know how it comes out. We are currently making decisions. My rice has been rehydrated and heated. I should probably give it a taster to see if it's... Yeah, no, that's good. It's not exactly as if it was brand new rice, but it's reasonably tender. I'm actually going to get it out of the strainer before it sticks to the mesh. And it can just kind of be there. I think we're gonna thicken this up. I might even add starch to it to get it to thicken up. Although there's going to be a little bit of starch in it because I used the rice broth for it. I should, while it's liquidy, actually, while it's still pretty liquidy, I should taste the juice because it is currently at a consistency where it would be pretty easy to add more flavors to it if I think it needs something. It's tangy, spicy, warm, but in both senses. It's quite hot, but also it's got that sort of warming spices to it. Very, very savory. It's got a slight richness to it, but not like overwhelming. Glad I didn't add the bacon. I think that would have greased it up too much. I'm going to add a bit of... You know what there's not in there? You know what there's none of in there is garlic, which is amazing because normally I am reaching for the garlic like immediately, but I don't think it needs it. At this stage, I don't think it needs it. I do think it needs a little bit of oregano. Surprised at myself for not just dumping a bunch of garlic in there. But I guess the garlic wasn't on my list of things that have to be used up, so it wasn't even on my mind. And at this point, I would only be able to throw garlic powder into it, which wouldn't be bad. But again, I don't think it needs it. It's not lacking for that type of flavor. It's actually boiling down a little bit faster than I think I want it to if I'm going to put an egg in it. Oop. Ow. It's hot. You flip your spatula onto your hand, it's hot. So if I was making shakshuka out of this, it needs to be thick enough that you can push a little divot into it with a spoon so that the egg doesn't just everywhere. And then it also needs to have a lid on it, which I don't know that is possible for this pan. I don't think I have a lid that big. Plus, this tastes nothing like a shakshuka. If I had quail eggs, I'd do a bunch of little quail eggs in this. Little baby guys. That'd be perfect. They'd be much easier to get in there and stay in one place. Oh, is that a storm? Oh my. There's a storm happening right now. I guess that was the big noise I heard outside earlier. Was a grumble of thunder. Well, heads up, there's a storm right now that kind of snuck up on me. I think I could do two. I think I could do 2 eggs in this if I push a couple little divots. I'm going to go for it. The eggs aren't something that absolutely has to be used up, but I did just get a new dozen eggs, so the straggler from the 2 stragglers from the old dozen eggs should get used. We're going to not crack them right into the thing, though. We're going to crack them into this bowl. I'm going to drop my tasting spoon. Fortunately, it didn't go anywhere. So you put it in a little bowl so that it is easier to then deposit in the right spot in the pan. And now I have to quickly do the other one because they should cook at around the same time, if at all possible. I almost didn't put it in right away to get the egg off my hand, but that's foolish. Definitely put it in the pan first before cleaning your hands. I'm gonna need that spoon for serving now. Okay. This is coming together. This is gonna be a hearty meal. I've used up a carton of eggs, which is good. While those eggs are, let's see if I can get a lid to fit on it. No, that lid does not fit. It is too small. It slides. It's almost exactly the same size as the pan, but it is just narrow enough that it slides in. Why did I use my widest pan for this? Will this one? Nope, not that one. Where's the big one? It doesn't fall in. That's going to be our steamer lid. It doesn't fall in. I'm going to briefly, while those are getting going over here on the countertop, show you what I do with an egg carton. Paper egg cartons only. We can use a knife since I have one handy, but you can just tear it off as well. So egg cartons are compostable because they're made of very lightly processed wood pulp. Well, this is easier without the knife. Anyways, I guess don't use a knife. It's harder to do it with a knife. I usually just tear them apart with my hand like that. So they're compostable. So then I always take the lid off and I sort of shred it up and throw it in my compost. But I save the bottom part because if you fill it with soil and put it in a little tray, it acts like a wick. It draws water up into the little soil pockets that are in there, and you can plant seeds. And I use these as seed starters. And then when you're done, you can, in theory, break the compartment off and plant it right in the ground, and it'll turn to mush, and the roots will push through it, and your thing will root. I haven't had great luck with that aspect of it. I think there's some variation in the density of these paper trays, but because they're these little tiny cups, they're pretty easy to just get in there with your fingers and scoop one of them out, and then plant that, as opposed to having a big tray. So they're not. I don't think they're ideal in terms of like breaking them apart and just planting little cups. Depending, I think there's some variation. Some of these egg trays are a little bit flimsier and thus would break down more easily. But I had some where I tried doing that, and when I checked on them, very few roots had actually pushed through, and most of them were kind of bunched up in there, and they weren't doing great. So asterisk on the just breaking them off and using them as is. But the fact that the paper acts as a wick, and I actually, this past spring when I was doing it, didn't water them directly at all. I just put dry dirt in and watered the tray it was sitting in. And all those seeds sprouted, and the soil was wet up to the very top. The egg carton is an adequate wick to pull the moisture all the way up. Okay, well, my crazy nonsense has yielded results. We have what appear to be 2 jiggly set eggs and a sort of thick stewish consistency of the rest of it, where I can push it aside and see the bottom of the pan for a moment. I know it's not even quite been an hour, and our second ad break is coming up shortly. But honestly, if I cook this anymore, it's going to be overcooked. I suppose this is the danger in centering a project around extras and leftovers. They don't take nearly as much cooking because they've already been mostly taken care of. So, I'm not exactly complaining. I'm really quite hungry today, so I'm going to take the heat off on that, and we're going to, I guess, serve. We're going to serve already. So it feels weird to serve at this point already. It feels weird to serve at this early stage. But I don't have anything else to slow it down with. Tell you what, I'm going to plate. I'm going to run an ad break, take the photos during the ad break, and then come back for the tasting. And I'm likely to eat this entire thing today because, as mentioned several times now, really very hungry. Didn't eat properly today. I keep doing that to myself. Okay, so if you've never had a shakshuka, they are normally not made with most of the ingredients that are in here, but they are made in this form, this style. And you scoop an egg out and you serve it. So I guess what we've ended up with here is a sort of fusion shuka. Oh man, that's a big serving. I'm supposed to not be eating huge meals because it's not good for my tummy. And then I end up not eating so that when I do eat, I have a giant meal. Ow, just punched myself in the face. Well, hey, I've got enough time. I can get all this cleaned up. Maybe we can do one tomorrow. I do have a fun new ingredient, not a leftover or use-up ingredient, but a fun new ingredient that needs to be used up before it goes. It's still new, so it's not like you're in danger of that. Oop, my camera sag. I will. Okay, sit tight. I'm going to run us an ad, and go take photos, and then when I get back, the ad will be done. Oh, I'm going to put parsley and cheese on this too. I almost forgot the parsley and the cheese. The ad might, in fact, start. Okay. And some cotija cheese, which is going to sort of be on the side here. Okay. Get rid of the bits. Okay. Now, sit tight, playing an ad, gonna be right back. For those of you not on the ad, it's all thunderstorming outside. It's weird. It's really hot today, so I guess I'm not entirely surprised. My camera's not working. Come on. Don't do this to me. There we go. Okay. Coming back, coming back. 30 seconds left. Since there's 30 seconds left, I'm going to take our unused parsley garnish and just add it right into the extra. You know, I could save that. I could save the extra there and do that as a what do you do with the leftovers from the leftovers tomorrow. That could be fun, although that might not take very long at all. That might be the quickest thing ever. That would be the kind of thing where I would record it. I'd have to record it rather than stream it because it would only, I can't even imagine that would take half an hour to turn into something. According to the Twitch gods, my community is back. Here's our thing. It's not a specific dish. It's similar to what I was thinking when I started, but also with some very obvious differences. One, there's no beans. Two, there's eggs. Neither of those things I thought were gonna happen. Based on the flavors I put in it, I have no imagining this is not going to be good. But let's give it a go. Let's see how done these eggs are if I overcooked them. Boop. They're still a little runny. Not super runny, but a little bit. Mmm. Mmm. Okay. What we got here, put the spoon down for a moment. What we got here is mm, the flavors of, it's the flavors of red beans and rice, but much more concentrated. I'm glad you're keeping track of the number of hmms. The little pieces of sausage, they still have a little bit of a snap to them. They aren't cooked to death. The vegetables around them are jammy. Jammy and soft, and the flavors have all merged together. The rice has just a tiny hint of its own flavor, which actually comes through because it hits at a slightly different time from the rich flavor of our topping sauce. And really, the egg was a great decision here because it's been added late enough and kept clean enough that it has a distinct different flavor from the surrounding stuff. Mm. Mm. I've made shakshuka before, which is where this method of cracking your egg right into a sort of stewy pan comes from, but I've never done it with other flavor profiles, with other cuisines. It works real well. It works really well. I think if we had done this and not put the meat in the mix and did put the beans in, the eggs would be almost a required element to get that sort of, well, I don't know if the beans, tough to say. Tough to say, because actual shakshuka doesn't have any meat in it, any meat or beans in it, and the eggs are the only protein element that's in the dish. I can't really taste the fresh parsley. It seems like it's just there for color this time. Sometimes I can taste it. Sometimes it's a really good, important part of a dish. This time I think it's just color. Mm. So it's rich and savory. It's rich and savory. It has a sort of a real subtle spice to it, which is good because I actually added quite a lot of pepper, but it was this pepper, which is not a very strong pepper. So it has a pretty gentle spice to it. The egg adds a fresher creaminess to it. Not just the yolk part, but the white isn't really firmly set. Well, that part was, but near the middle, it's not really firmly set. So it has a sort of that gentle creaminess to it. Mm. This makes me want to use this form factor with different flavors and see how it works. Because this is definitely not the only dish. Think about ramen. You'll often have sliced whole egg floating in it. And that's not dissimilar here, where you've got egg as a distinct component within the dish. And egg is such a universal thing that I feel like you could do this with lots of different cuisines. Anyways, I keep taking bites in part because it's very good, but also because I'm very hungry. Mm. I do like that the sausage retained a little bit of its snap, because we did kind of make everything else mostly similar textures. And beans would have been, again, the same texture, that sort of softness to them. So I think ultimately the sausage was a good decision just for the textural component. I don't know that it's a superior flavor. It's definitely a different flavor. I don't know if it's a superior flavor to beans. Well, I don't have much else to say. Our actual cook didn't quite take an hour today, which is good. You know, if you're doing like a weeknight thing, you could make this at home. The rice I was using was leftover, but having the rice go, new rice going on the side would have been just as easy. And this is what? A tomato, a pepper, an onion, a carrot, and some celery. Um, and then just spices. So I guess I'm going to wrap us up because I want to eat this while it's nice and hot. And I have not much else to say. Let's see. Before I just end up eating the whole thing on camera and just turning into a mukbang, um, let's see who I can send you all off to. Pull up Twitch proper and see the full list. I don't usually end this early, so I am not sure who all is going to be on. We could go see Hecky. We could go see Silent. We could go see... oh, there's Jen with the raid messages. I'm just checking up on some other channels, see what's going on. What do you guys want to see? Let's see George. Let's go see George. We're gonna go see George Hot Sauce. I recall he had a different name when we were there last, but I don't remember it. He's in his kitchen, so he's probably going to end up cooking at some point. But he's currently in the just chatting. So we're going to go see him. We're going to go say hi. We're going to go tell him what we made. Looks like he's literally just getting started, so in on the ground floor. And current plan is to go on Saturday. I might get conscripted to dig a hole on Saturday. So tentative. And actually, if I get this cleaned up, we might go again right away tomorrow. Since this was a very low effort one, I'm not feeling like I'll be particularly challenged to dive in on one tomorrow. So maybe. Stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for showing up. I think pretty interesting dish. Yeah, just sort of odds and ends. It's how I cook a lot. It's just, as I always say, that's how I cook a lot. But it doesn't take very long, so I don't do it on the show so much. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to call this, but I'll come up with something. Yeah. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.